Let me introduce a beautiful young woman who has really lived an incredible life, our Imbarus. I guess I will say one thing about the cover. When I saw this photo, you know how when you see a cover, you know instantly whether the cover is the cover or not? And oftentimes when we do a book, we'll get 6 or 8 renditions of a cover, and you know instantly whether it's not the cover, and then you know instantly whether it is. And when I saw this cover, I thought it was the most beautiful cover I'd ever seen in my life. And it was actually a picture taken by Ara's goddaughter, Emily, that she took when she was in the country. And so it's very special. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much, Betty, you know, for really trusting my writing skills. You know, I really hope that somehow they satisfy your needs. Thank you, you know, to William, who pretty much disappeared after he saw the copy of the book. He said, Out of the Transylvania Night. Okay, we're going to put this one for 7 p.m. Then he looked at us like, oh, maybe not. It's Transylvania, so we're going to go and have it broad daylight. 2 p.m. There you go. So it's very bright outside. You know, we are not really going to have any problems, disappearances, you know, things that are going to end up in people's, you know, throats. So we want to play it very, very safe. So he moved it, you know, from 7 o'clock to 2 p.m. Again, thank you so much for being here. It's just, you know, an honor to be at Barnes & Noble's and to be represented by Betty Young's and by Betty's, you know, Young's books. So thank you. In the morning, I was talking to Betty, and obviously, you know, I really prepare my speeches like way far in advance, like 5 minutes before coming here. And I asked Betty, well, how long do you think I should talk? And she said, well, probably like 5 minutes. I said, 5 minutes? Oh my God, I mean, I'm talking more in my sleep, you know, than 5 minutes, you know, so I'm not that shy. So obviously I can talk, you know, for half an hour plus 5 more minutes.
You just stay there. We'll tell you when to leave.
So that was very interesting. She was like, no, just try to kind of like bring it down to 5 minutes. I was like, wow, I better sleep, you know, and I better, you know, talk in my sleep, you know, definitely. So what happened, obviously the book has 3 parts, like Betty mentioned. And Out of the Transylvania Night, when we were thinking about the title itself, we had different other titles like Aura's Freedom or, you know, Aura's Romania. So I told Betty I was really, really, you know, into having the word Transylvania in the book. And I said, Betty, whatever you think, whatever you want to do, I want the word Transylvania in the title. So she started laughing and she said, yes, it's really hard to deal with you. And I said, yes, it is. So I want that particular word in, you know, word in the title itself. So obviously when we called it Out of the Transylvania Night. The book itself has 3 different parts. Okay, the very first part is my life, you know, during the communist regime. And what is interesting about that particular site, well, obviously, you know, I grew up in Transylvania. That's, you know, Dracula's country. So when people are asking me, is that country real? Yes, it is real. You know, it's a region in Romania. So I wanted, you know, the book to be special, touching a little bit, you know, on the idea of Transylvania, you know, touching a little bit on the idea of Dracula, but more than that is touching on the idea of how people really survived, you know, under the communist regime and under a different Dracula, I would say, you know, which was Nicolae Ceausescu. So the idea was to kind of like bring to light, you know, all those people that somehow, you know, they stayed in the country because, you know, the borders were closed, your mail was checked, your phone was bugged, you couldn't really leave, you couldn't really do anything. So how did they really survive? Well, obviously each and every one of us had, you know, a really, really welcoming and warm environment at home. And that's how, you know, Romanians survived. You know, the most powerful love that they've got it actually inside their own families. And, you know, that really, really made a huge difference in our lives because obviously everything was, you know, cold, everything was, you know, dangerous outside. So the only probably love that we really got was inside our families. The second part of the book, it's my life during Romania after the communist regime. And obviously the country has changed, but because I'm constantly plugged in, you know, things were really not moving, you know, as fast as I wanted them to move. So I said, if they're not moving, I'm moving out. So Romania, you know, definitely, you know, took a different path, you know, after we got rid of the communist regime in 1989. And we wanted, to be successful. The country was going in the right direction. The problem was that it was not going as fast as I wanted it. So I applied for the green card lottery, which is literally a lottery. And I won. We were, out of 8 million people that applied actually in 1996 for 1997. Michael and I were the lucky ones, and we were chosen among the 55,000 that actually were admitted into the country. So that's...
Tell him you were a reporter during this time.
Yeah, during that time, obviously, after, the communist regime, was terminated and we got rid of Ceausescu, I became a journalist. So I worked for 8 years, as a journalist in Romania. And it was not a problem or if I would travel or if I would leave the country. I was doing that all the time. I had all kinds of interesting workshops with BBC, with Radio Contact. So it was not a problem of staying in the country or leaving the country. The problem was that things didn't really change. We changed the facade, but we really didn't change the roots. And the mentality, people's mentality, cannot be changed, from one year to another. It's really going to take generations until they really are going to refocus and change their lives and the way they think. So that was pretty much my, main point when I left the country. I applied for this green card lottery, and it was like green, so that means I can go. And I left. So that was in 1997. So that's pretty much the second part of the book. Now the third one, I came to the States, with Michael and 2 pieces of luggage. So I was dragging, 2 pieces of luggage and my husband. And it was not an interesting experience because the very first time, I got into our newly rented apartment, I could literally hear my voice. It was empty. So we were echoing, we were screaming at each other, we were echoing our own words. So it was really hard. We started from ground zero. When you come here, especially, we signed a paper that said that we cannot really become, the government's liability. So we should really, really be on our own and struggle, with whatever we have, meaning each other. It was, hard. So that third part especially talks about, whatever, I've gone through. Well, everything was, I was achieving the American dream. Obviously, I was chasing this dream. But I always thought that the American dream is more financial related. I thought that just because you're driving a big car or you're living in a great house, that's what it means to achieve the American dream, which is really not, it's not that, The American dream, it's probably a set of freedoms. It's a cultural freedom, it's a political freedom, it's a social freedom that you are actually going to take. And because of all those things, you are actually going to achieve the material side of the American dream. So obviously, I got lost in that wave of materialism, and it so happens that very many times people, they have to start all over only once. Well, that was not my case, because I didn't want my, life to be boring, and so nothing is happening, everything was, successful. So I thought, okay, something has to happen because there's nothing I can do. Maybe I should go to Hawaii and start all over again. So in 2008, it so happened that, we lost all the material possessions, the ones that I thought that I was so rooted in. And then more than that, I lost my mom because of cancer. So in 2009, January 1st, here I am with no material possessions whatsoever. And, more than that, I lost whatever was, the most dearest to me, my mother. So here I am starting all over once again. So that was the second time. So I don't really know how many times I have to start all over, but oh well, I'm very well trained, I can say that. I've done it twice, so, who knows how many times I have to start.